Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and in particular of its Bangabandhu Birth Centenary Celebration Cell, at the outset, I would like to pay our deepest respect to the greatest Bengali of all time, Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the Raizadet of Bangladesh. This year we are celebrating his birth centenary. The government of Bangladesh has declared the period from March 2020 to March 2021 as Mujib Borsho, the year for Mujib. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bengalis all over the world are organizing various events and programs to celebrate this auspicious occasion, both at government and non-government levels. Of course, maintaining all health-related protocol as prescribed by the national as well as international authorities concerned. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs have also planned year-long events and programs to remember the prime architect of our struggle for emancipation from all kinds of oppression and inequality. Bangabandhu Lecture Series is one amongst those. The lecture series is intended to spread the bold vision of Bangabandhu towards attaining global peace, prosperity, and compassion, so that people all over the world can connect his philosophy with the contemporary global context and get inspirations from his life and legacy. Today, on the first day of the month of our victory, we will listen to the first lecture of that series. We believe that lectures of this series to be delivered by distinguished world-renowned personalities from home and abroad would inspire us further towards realizing Bangabandhu's dream of Sonar Bangla, or prosperous Golden Bengal, under the leadership of his dynamic daughter, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the venue of today's event is a historic one. Sugandha, where the Foreign Service Academy is situated, is the first Ganabhavan, the first office of Bangabandhu. The Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the newly built premises of the Foreign Service Academy on 25th September this year. Let us now watch a short video clip on the Foreign Service Academy, and after that, the Honorable Foreign Minister will deliver his inaugural statement. Thank you. The Honorable Foreign Minister will now deliver his inaugural statement.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Abul Maal Abdul Muhith, distinguished discussant, Dr. Gauhar Rizvi, advisor to the Prime Minister, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. At the very outset, I would like to express my gratitude and thanks to so many of you who wish me get well from this COVID. In this historic month of December, the month of victory, today we started a historic event, Bangabandhu Lecture Series. Our first speaker is former Finance and Planning Minister Abul Maal Abdul Muhith. And in the next month, we propose to have our Nobel laureate, Professor A.K. Sen, as our keynote speaker. Bangabandhu is an institution. He was a visionary leader. He spent his entire life especially to establish rights of people, to end discrimination and disparity and deprivation, and to empower people, an ardent believer of democracy and rule of law and people's power. He was truly a friend of common people. He was a visionary. His firm conviction on the richness of fertile land of Bangladesh proves to be prophetic. A food deficient country, Bangladesh is now self-sufficient in food production. Even before UN could come up with the law of the sea in 1982, Bangabandhu could come up with it as early as 1974. We need to do research on his life, legacy, and his way of thinking. And therefore, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has recently established Bangabandhu Center for Diplomacy and Strategy at the office of the head of government, the first head of government, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, of the independent and sovereign Bangladesh here in Suganda. Excellencies, Bangladesh, which was known as a bottomless basket, is now a vibrant economy, a land of opportunity. Even post-COVID economy, its GDP growth rate is 5.4%, is the highest in Asia. By next February 2021, we hope Bangladesh will be out of LDC. It would be an achievement, but we cannot be complacent. We have to engage ourselves to achieve our target to reach the roadmap 2021, 2030, and 2041. By 2041, we would like to achieve Sonar Bangla, the dream of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. There are some critics. Some argue that since Bangladesh has undertaken large number of mega projects, it may fall into debt trap. Our debt ratio is around 14 or 15%, much below the threshold of debt trap of 40% of IMF. They further argue that it could be under the Chinese or Indian debt trap. Their fear is not fact-based. Our debt from China is around 6.5%, and that of India is 1.3% of GDP. So their fear is totally not based on fact. They argue that although it is Bangladesh economy is thriving, but the cost of borrowing will shoot up soon. This fear is also not fact-based. Our cost of borrowing is around 1.3% only, not shooting up yet. Good news is Recently, last year, during this Bangabandhu Mujib Borsho, we have established 68 Bangabandhu centers across the globe in all our missions, out of 78 in 68 missions. These Bangabandhu corners, and I shall expect my colleagues to arrange seminars, workshops, films in their own domains in collaboration with local gentry, intellectuals, teachers, diaspora, especially in this Mujib Borsho and the following year, the year of our 50th anniversary, so that this type of, this type of fears could be eliminated. At the same time, we would like to tell our story to the global leadership. Dear colleagues, we have decided to honor our outstanding honor and recognize two our outstanding diplomats, one from Bangladesh and the another from a foreign diplomat serving in Bangladesh. And we hope to declare the names of the gold medal awardees on the 16th December, the day of victory of Bangladesh. Bangabandhu was a great proponent of peace, and he always believed in resolving issues through dialogue and peaceful means. His cardinal principle was friendship to all, malice to none. And he always says, and I quote, peace is essential for development. Therefore, we propose to organize World Peace Conference in Bangladesh next year during the 50th anniversary of independence of Bangladesh. It would be a gathering of peace lovers of all across the globe. We believe violence, war, and terror across nations is largely due to a mindset of intolerance and disrespect towards others. Rohingyas are uprooted from their ancestral homes because of spread of venom of hatred and intolerance. This must stop. We must inculcate a mindset of tolerance, a mindset of respect towards others, irrespective of religion, ethnicity, color, and background. We will be listening the life and legacy of Bangabandhu today, and we look forward to that. With these few comments, I welcome all my friends, colleagues, to listen to the speaker of the day. And those who have questions, they are most welcome. The speech will be, after the discussion, speech will be followed by a Q&A session. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We are really grateful that thank you, sir. Can you hear me? Okay. Sir, this is the time to introduce the first speaker of the first day of the Bangabandhu lecture series. It would be very difficult for me to contain his illustrious career in like 1 or 2 minutes that I have today, but I will try my best to do that. His Excellency Mr. Abul Abdul Muhith, a veteran freedom fighter, diplomat, parliamentarian, and former finance minister. Mr. Muhith was very brilliant throughout his student life. He secured first place in the intermediate in the province in 1951 from Sylhet MC College. He stood first class first in BA honors in English literature in 1954 from Dhaka University and passed his MA with credit from the same university in 1955. During his service period, he studied in Oxford University in 1957-58 and received MPA degree from Harvard University in 1964. He was the first diplomat of Washington Embassy of Pakistan who transferred his allegiance to Bangladesh in June during the Independence War of 1970 war. He was appointed as the Secretary of Planning in January 1972 and Secretary of the External Resources Division of Finance and Planning Ministry in May 1977. He went for early retirement in 1981 from his service and started the second innings of glorious career as a consultant on economic and development matters in Ford Foundation, IFAD, UN, UNDP, ADB, and World Bank. He was Finance and Planning Minister from March 1982 to December 1983. He's a pioneer of Bangladesh Environment Movement and was also the founder president of BAPA, established in 2000. Earlier, he was the founder president of an environmental group called Porosh. I can go on continuously, but I think you are eagerly waiting for listening to Mr. Abul Al Muhith. Sir, the floor is to you. Thank you.
Good morning. We have been celebrating this year, 2020, as the centenary of the birth of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. But because of the coronavirus, the celebration has been completely upset. We are trying to compensate now by holding a series of speeches from the 1st of December 2020, that is today. The first speech is my tribute to the great man of the 20th century, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and I consider it a great honor to be asked to deliver it today. On March 17, 1920, Bangladesh was fortunate to host the birth of this great man in our soil in a village, Tungipara, in the Gopalganj subdivision of Piripur Zilla. In 1984, all subdivisions which came into existence as a geographical unit of administration in British India in 1854 were upgraded into zillas or districts. In 1947, when the subcontinent became independent of the British colonial rule, 3 states came up in the Indian subcontinent, namely Indian Union, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, then known as Ceylon. The subcontinent has a history of various people descending on it from time to time, but making it their home. A horde, a tribe, or a clan came to this land and made it their home. This was the way the human civilization flourished in the world. This deliberate choice of a group of people is most evident in the life of the founder of the Mughal India, Emperor Babur. Babur was born in Fargana, a village in Samarkand of the state of Azerbaijan of today. But he was exiled by powerful people who were not prepared to accept him as their leader. He found shelter in Khorasan, but could not forget his birthplace, and as he grew up, made many attempts to get back to Samarkand. He considered it the shelter he received from the Persian monarch as temporary. Despite many attempts, he could not get back to his birthplace with lasting supremacy, even though he won it a few times. From a territory near the Indus Basin, he got an opportunity to move eastward and southward to Delhi and Agra in central India by defeating the Muslim rulers of Southeast, Muslim rulers of North India. Delhi was a prized conquest, and there he began rethinking about his goal in life. I was talking about the goal in life, the life of Babur. I was talking about the change in the goal of life of Emperor Babur of the Mughal India. He decided finally that looking back towards Fargana will not serve him any purpose. And Delhi was, of course, a prize conquest. So he gathered all his friends and followers in a meeting in Delhi and announced there that he is not going to look back. India is going to be their home. And this was a tradition in India for long. People came here as foreigners, but once they came here, they became Indians. And that's why India was able to remain an independent country till 1765, when it was, of course, tricked by Robert Clive of the East India Company of the United Kingdom. Anyway, when Babur finally decided to stay in India and make it his home, he got all his people and told them, don't look back. We are going to settle here, and this is our country. Then came in India the time of the British adventurers. They were traders, and the first British trader, Button, obtained Mughal permission to set up a trading post in and around modern Calcutta that was created out of 3 villages. The villages were named Kolikata, Sutanuti, Chutanuti, and Govindpur, and all of them were situated in the mouth of mighty Ganges River. Lord Robert Clive of Great Britain, a very bold but deceptive leader of the British traders, set up a British colony in the subcontinent for the first time in 1756, winning the Battle of Plassey through mostly deceit, bribes, and conspiracy. Initially, they kept local conspirators like Mir Jafar Ali Khan, and other stooges as the rulers, but Warren Hastings, the governor of the British Fort William in Calcutta, decided in 1772 to give up this pretense and become the ruler in India. He became the first British governor in 1773, and the next year he became the Governor General. In 1772 he became the governor, and in 1773 he became the Governor General of British India. And that is when the colonial rule began in India, really, although for a few years they maintained a facade of Indian Nawabs taking the sort of leading role as leaders, and but this was dispensed with later as it proved sort of incapable of functioning. And then in India, the local rulers tried to regain their independence in 1858, nearly 100 years after really powers changed in Indian subcontinent. This war of independence, as far as we are concerned, was titled by the British in a derisive manner as the Sepoy Mutiny. In the Sepoy Mutiny, both sides were ruthless and very cruel. And it was finally the British were successful in suppressing the Indian leaders. There were many Indian leaders in this fight for independence, but they were all suppressed. And Queen Victoria then announced that, well, she will become the Empress of India, of course, at a future date, and British colonial rule will be administered from London by a Secretary of State for India, who will be a minister in the government in the United Kingdom. Indian subcontinent had this legacy of a country where hordes, clans, or ethnic groups came in search of arable lands and potable water and settled there and made it their home. Well, this way it became a land of settlers in a melting pot, because all of them mixed with the Australoid original bonds and created a new country of a distinct variety of people called the Bengalis, very different from how it was built in the United States. In the United States, various nationals of European countries and Africa went there and retained their identity. So it was a kind of mosaic of a number of clans or number of nationals. And they were all united together, of course, by one bond. And that was the bond of the English language. Anyway, that's a different story I'm just mentioning casually. Indian subcontinent had the legacy of hordes, clans, and ethnic groups who came in search of arable lands and potable water and settled here and made it their home. And this was the way, as I said, the United States was formed in 1492 when it was first sighted by Columbus. That became a country where you have Africans, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Greek, and German. They all remained dominant in that country, but were broadly classified as English or Latin nations, according to the language they adopted as their state language. Nation states in Europe were so many, and ultimately they remained separate, although they got economically integrated into Europe. Great Britain, perhaps because of its isolation, but overwhelming dominance in discovering new lands, is still having difficulty with an integrated Europe. Well, it had so many great leaders. Europe had so many great leaders. Frederick Barbarossa of Holy Roman Empire, Louis XIV of France, Garibaldi in Italy, Otto Bismarck in Germany, and Victor Emmanuel in Italy, just to mention a few of them. They are the fathers of their nation. Bangladesh, however, emerged in a different manner. In the eastern end of Bengal, there were considerable human habitation from about 3,500 years before the birth of Christ in what is now known as Sylhet of Bangladesh. The area was known as Brabakunda, and it was a green jungle inhabited by wild animals, including elephants. And Australoid people. Islam came to Bengal through the Arab traders in the 7th century AD, and strangely, they concentrated from Chittagong to Dhaka and up to Sylhet of modern Bangladesh and Kachar of Assam, state of Indian Union. Though far from seen that northern India, where Islam came as early as the 8th century AD, Muslims in Bengal became the largest population in this country at a very early period. It's very strange because it was so far from the western part of Indian subcontinent. Anyway, in this area, religion came mainly through saints and Sufis, Hazrat Shah Jalal being the most important of them. After his name, we have named our international airport in Dhaka. Shah Jalal went to Sylhet in 1304, and Sylhet became a part of Muslim Empire of Bengal at that time. The ruler of Sylhet, Gaur Govinda, he was of the Patro group of people. He put up all kinds of difficulties for the Muslims to go to Sylhet. But he soon found out that Shah Jalal had miraculous powers, and so he left his kingdom and got in the outskirts of Sylhet along with his Patro community and mixed up with them. He could not be found, but his palace was destroyed by the Muslims and it was occupied by the Muslims. Mr. Sikandar was the general who was coming with Hazrat Shah Jalal. Hazrat Shah Jalal also picked his own area near the Munarai Tila, which is the present place where the Shah Jalal Dargah can be found in Sylhet. Now, in the long history of Muslim rule in India of almost 1,000 years, beginning with the 8th century till, let's say, the 1800, later part of the century that began in 1800. I have chosen to write a book on the history of mankind. And my history of mankind ends in 1884. I have chosen this date mainly because in 1884, India changed from its kind of decadence into a new state of existence. And in 1884 began the sort of advent of modern sort of instruments of socialization. First of all, we began forming associations of various professions, and there came the profession of the zamindars, the profession of the lawmakers, and so on and so forth. And that was how the modern India began. As far as I'm concerned, I have to say something about myself here. I was as a very young student, I got involved in sort of affairs of the country, mainly because of my heritage. My father was a leader of the Muslim League and the founder of Muslim League in Sylhet in the 1940s. And so my sort of political interest began in 1940. As a student, I happened to be one of the brightest students of my time, standing first among all the students of this country in the intermediate examination, and then also obtaining a first place in the English literature as a student of graduation. Well, I came to know Bangabandhu at a very early age. He went to my district in 1947, when India was becoming independent, to canvass there in Sylhet in a referendum in which Sylhet chose its fate, whether it should be in Pakistan or it should be in India. In this referendum, Bangabandhu spent only one night in Sylhet town. And on that very night, I had the chance as a boy of 13 to meet him. He impressed me as a man of great personality, with a beautiful moustache in those days. And this moustache was very well known to me because my father had the most beautiful moustache in Sylhet, which was claimed by the Sylhet Bar Library as its own right to decide whether it should be there or not. Because when he decided finally to cut it, he had to take the permission of the Bar Library at his old age of 68, when it was not looking too good, black and white all combined. Anyway, as a young student, I became a kind of a small politician. And I was helped there by the assistant headmaster of the school, Sayyid Hafiz Rahman, who set up a Muslim welfare league in the school. And he was himself the chairman of this league. And he made me the secretary when I was only 12 years of age. Anyway, I remembered Bangabandhu very well in 1947. When I came to Dhaka as a student in 1952, I tried to meet him and make contact with him. Unfortunately, in 52, he was in jail for more than a year. It was one of the longest period of his jail life before 1968. Well, finally, I met him in 1953. I went to his house one day, which was across the central jail in Dhaka, and met him and tried to introduce myself. Of course, he could not remember this young boy, but then I mentioned about my father, and he said, "Oh, you are the son of this Muchwala, this man with big sort of big mustache, who was the secretary of the Muslim League Referendum Board." And from that time, I have known him quite well during all my life. And at a certain period, where we had the advantage of serving under him when he was the Prime Minister of this country. Bangabandhu, as a leader, demonstrated his gift disposition in every possible way. His dislike for poverty, and hence its removal, was his primary commitment. He sincerely believed that, blessed with productive land and large population, he had everything that was needed for a prosperous country. His dreamland, the Sonar Bangla, that was his dreamland, Sonar Bangla. He based his strategy of ensuring public welfare on poverty reduction and producing food from the vast arable land of this country. He named this country as Bangladesh in 1962 in one of his speeches in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. His next target was finding jobs for this large number of people of Bangladesh, and he always thought that its land and its fertility will be the crucial point about it. And in fact, this is what happened. Bangladesh today, with the same, not the same area of land, but much less arable area, produces all the food that it requires. It has gone up from 11 million tons to 400 million tons now. This is what is Bangladesh is producing as food for the people, for its people, exactly as Bangabandhu did. And in terms of jobs also, it is land and the wisdom of people which is providing all that is required for creating jobs. We are having roughly 20 lakhs of new labor force in the economy every year. Of this 20 lakhs, we are lucky that nearly 5 lakhs go abroad. They have created a place for themselves in all the world as the servers of rice and curry, a meal which is very popular in Europe now, and particularly in the United Kingdom. United Kingdom used to have fish and chips as its main diet. Today, it is rice and curry. And this rice and curry demands that even though there are restrictions for foreigners, for visitors, they have to permit a number of Bengalis to migrate to the United Kingdom to keep up the staple food of the country, the supply of rice and curry. Now, Bangabandhu Bangabandhu was born in Tungipara, we know, but for his education, he had to go to Calcutta, which was the center for all of Bengalis for higher studies in India. And he also went there as a young boy, not very young though, because of certain reasons. As a young boy, he had two troubles. He had beriberi and he had also eye troubles. These two troubles cost him a number of years. Almost 8 years of his life were cost by these two troubles. So that at the age of 28, at the age of 27, he appeared for his graduation in 1947 and passed it and became a graduate. And he came to Bangladesh, to Dhaka, only at the end of 1947 from Calcutta, where he was a known kingmaker. He did not He would not contest in elections for students' unions, etc. himself, but he was made the uncontested General Secretary of Calcutta Islamia College, which is now known as Maulana Abul Kalam Azad College in Calcutta. Now, Bangabandhu, as he thought of this country, Bangladesh, from his very early days, thought of everything else as to how to develop this country. That was a great difference between the sort of nation builders of Europe and Bangabandhu. Nation builders of Europe, no one did the job himself. They actually got into the job at the final moment. Garibaldi, you call him, or Otto Bismarck, all of them became the builders of their nations by giving the last push. In the case of Bangabandhu, it was different. For him, he had to dream of Bangladesh. He had to formulate the ideas of Bangladesh. He had to make it popular among his followers. He had to teach others as to how to feel for a free Bangladesh, a nation of Bengali people. And that way, he combined all that the great leaders of Western world developed, the great leaders of Western world developed for making the nation. Bangabandhu dreamt of the nation. Then he set up the contours of this new nation. He gave the ideals of the new nation, the four principles that we know of democracy, the four principles. I'm getting lost in my written speech. Anyway, democracy, worldliness, nationalism,
yes, secularism,
secularism, and secularism.
socialism.
Yeah, socialism and secularism. Again, socialism has been qualified there, that it is social equity and sort of place for everybody in the country. The alleviation of poverty, therefore, in Bangladesh became the first target all through. And alleviation poverty is something that I spent all my life in working on. You see, I am 86 years of age. And these 86 years of age, I have gone on retirement only last year. I served, therefore, for more than 70 years in the public service. And this has been a great pride and achievement in my life. Well, I was talking about the independence of Bangladesh. In the independence struggle, unfortunately, we had some of our people who played as agents who were mercenary, and they played as agents of Pakistan in the early years of Bangladesh. These agents of Pakistan, some of them I can name: Colonel Rashid, Colonel Farooq, Major Nur Hussain. Most of them have been tried and have met their final end of their life, except five. Five are still being hunted by our foreign minister, Mr. Momen. He has promised us that they have all been located now. They are in India, United Kingdom, India, United States, and Canada. And we are on way to receiving most of them, hopefully, in the coming years. You see. Now, these fellows, these sort of anti-Bangladesh elements, were supported by Pakistan and financed by Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. They are now in difficulties, mainly because Muammar Gaddafi is gone, and except for Pakistan, they have very few places in the world to move because they are not welcome anywhere in the world. Let's hope that we shall get them back very soon. Well, then I have a few words to say about the misfortune of Pakistan. Pakistan was mainly brought into existence by the Bengalis. In 1945, there was a challenge. Does the Muslim League represent the Muslims of India, or it represents a group of people? It was proved by Hussain Saeed Sarwadi of Bangladesh that no, the Muslims are a different identity, because in India, he was the only one to form the government of the largest province of India, the original Bengal province. He became the prime minister of this country in 1945, the only place where Muslims really had a victory. In Sindh, it had a victory of some sort, with some sort of additions here and minus here. But anyway, this Hussain Shahi Sarwadi, unfortunately, was not in the, I should say, good book of the founder of Pakistan. He was used by Mr. Jinnah for everything, for difficult resolutions and all that. But he should have been the rightful prime minister of Pakistan from its beginning. Unfortunately, that was denied to him, and he became the prime minister in 1956. So many years after the creation of Pakistan, when it had become a messy situation in the whole country. But anyway, it was to the credit of Sarwadi that he gave the constitution of this country after 9 years. It took 9 years in Pakistan to form the constitution, to frame the constitution, which in India was framed in just 2 years. So anyway, Sarwadi's misfortune was that he was left out at the time of the creation of Bangladesh. Bangabandhu, however, was a follower of Sarwadi from 1938, when he first met him as a young man. Sarwadi noted his special characteristics and suggested to him that he should be seeing Sarwadi if he goes to Calcutta. And Bangabandhu made it his principle to see Sarwadi when he first went to Calcutta. And from that day, in 1938, he became a student of Mr. Sarwadi and remained so all through his life. He died in 1963 in Beirut, and it was Bangabandhu who rushed from London to Beirut to receive his body and bring it to Dhaka. That Bangabandhu, I'm almost at the last stage of my sort of speech, where I would just mention what Bangabandhu did for achieving Bangladesh, and how he is very different from the nation builders of all other countries. Bangabandhu decided that Bengalis should be a nation based on its culture and its language. And he preached this idea even in the Pakistan days, first by naming Bangladesh in 1962, that this will be the land of Bangladesh. Then his next job was to make this idea acceptable to the Bengalis, that Bangladesh can survive as a country. This he also performed in his lifetime. The third thing that he had to do was to give the ideals of Bangladesh. What should be its character? What should be its lookout? And he defined these 4 elements as the basis of Bengali nationhood. And there also, he did not have somebody else to prepare the ground, but he had himself to prepare it. And he did it in as many ways as possible. He was a minister for some time. He did whatever he could for that period. Then he decided that this was not enough to organize the people, so he resigned. And just roamed over the whole country for more than a year, meeting people in the villages of Bangladesh, making friends with them, and enthusing them with the idea of a new nation. So that was the third job that he had to do as the nation builder. And the final job was the push, ultimate push that had to be given. There also, Bangabandhu had to do it in 1971. He was not with us at that time, but his spirit was with us, and that survived us in this difficult period of our independence war. And we were lucky that he came back to this country alive and at least took our leadership for the first few years, 3.5 years of our existence. In these 3.5 years, what he did was a country which was completely ruined by the burn and destroy policy of Pakistan in East Pakistan during the War of Liberation. It was the scorched earth policy which Pakistan followed during the War of Liberation. And from that state of Bangladesh to bring it up to a level where it rebuilt its original capacity, which was in fact very poor. Infrastructure in Bangladesh was very poor even before, but Bangabandhu almost brought it to the level that was there in existence before the ruinous war of 1971. Bangabandhu was with us for about 3.5 years. In these 3.5 years, he gave the idea of the nation. In these 3.5 years, no, he had already given the idea of the nation. In these 3.5 years, he rebuilt the country, brought it back to almost the capacity it had at the time of before the War of Liberation, before the ruinous War of Liberation, and he brought it back to that level. And then the same scoundrels, the agents of Pakistan, the mercenary soldiers, a few mercenary soldiers of Pakistan, about 10 or 15 in number, they brought about his assassination most unexpectedly. Bangabandhu could not think that anybody in Bangladesh would be assassinating him. When he heard some noise, he came out of his bedroom, walked, and started walking towards the downwards with his loud voice, asking, "What's the matter?" And it was then that Nur Hussain, who is now in Canada, that fellow shot him dead as before he could step onto the next step. He could go to the front, and he fell with his head down. That is how Bangabandhu's life was ended. And I feel very proud to say today that I had been unflinching in my devotion to Bangabandhu all my life. And I am so very happy that on this day, I could deliver a speech which is centered around him to the nation for the beginning of the series of speeches which has been organized to celebrate his centenary. Well, before I conclude, I have one more thing to mention, which has all partly been mentioned by the foreign minister. That's about the laws that Bangabandhu passed during his 3 years and 7 months as prime minister. The legislature passed 519 laws and amendments to laws, including the constitutional amendments, and covered almost all the areas of public concern. My favorite area is the law of the sea. It was almost a decade later that the principles of the consensus for the law of the sea were adopted. But Bangabandhu prepared the law in 1974, the Maritime Law of Bangladesh in 1974. And in 2014 only, we, his successors in this country, and I in particular, who was Minister of Finance at that time, had to look at the revision of the law. And trying to revise the law, we found that we have not much to revise, because what he has produced in 1974, well before the Law of the Sea conference took place and ideas about the Law of the Sea were formed, had the basic elements of a maritime law, which did not require much amendment. We brought an amendment of only 2 or 3 sections of the law, and that was all that we could do. After how many years? Look at it, 2014, 1974 and 2014. After how many years? 50 years, 70 years. We found that we could only tinker with his law. So this is my most important example of of Bangabandhu as a great man of the world. He was not just a man for Bangladesh. He was a great man of the world. The world must feel proud about him because he had this foresight and he had this capacity of building a nation from nothing, from zero. He started building the nation when all went through all the 4 processes, which took centuries in other countries. He just sort of liquidated them and created this new country. So I'm now at the conclusion of my speech. I consider it a great privilege to have known Bangabandhu for quite a long period and worked for him for a while. Then years later, I came to know his illustrious daughter, Sheikh Hasina, and had the privilege of being her finance minister for 10 years in one stretch. I sincerely think that working with her and her 2 consecutive terms, and for the 2 consecutive terms, and guided by her leadership talents, which are certainly uh, leadership talents, I have also taken a part in building, in shaping the Chunar Bangla of Bangabandhu. At least I have been successful in moving us out of the least developed countries of the world into the middle-income countries of the world in a short period of time. This is my tribute to Bangabandhu on the occasion of the beginning of the series of lectures in connection with his centenary celebration. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for such an insightful and inspirational lecture. Indeed, you have rightly mentioned, Bangabandhu is not only our leader, he is the leader of the world. And we indeed are lucky to be alive and celebrating his birth centenary during this period. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now I will introduce you to you, the discussant, with another illustrious figure, Dr. Gauhar Rizvi. Professor Gauhar Rizvi is advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister for International Affairs since 2009. In a career of nearly 3 decades and spanning 4 continents, Professor Rizvi has combined academic appointments with positions in international organizations, not-for-profit institutions, and the media. Gauhar Rizvi obtained a double first in BA Honours and MA from the University of Dhaka before going to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, where he obtained his DPhil. Rizvi held the offices of the Vice Provost for International Programs and Professor of Global Affairs at the University of Virginia. Earlier, he was Director of Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation at the Harvard Kennedy School. He has held a number of other positions in academic, non-profit, and international organizations, including representative of the Ford Foundation for South Asia in Delhi and New York, Director, Asia Society, New York, Fellow and Professor of International Relations, Nuffield College, Oxford, Pro-Director and Bate Fellow in Commonwealth Studies, Queen Elizabeth House, Oxford, Senior Lecturer, University of Warwick, so on and so forth. He has both taught and written on a range of subjects and has considerable hands-on experience in institutional management, international development, and conflict resolution. Sir, I hand over the floor to you now.
Is it only me? শুনতে পাচ্ছি না।
Sir, can you kindly unmute? We cannot hear here. Okay.
Oh God.
It seems unmuted from there. Can you please check? Okay. It seems just small technical glitch, so it will be solved soon.
What happened?
It's unmuted, কিন্তু শোনা যাচ্ছে না। স্যার যদি এটা কেবল ইউজ করেন হেল্প হতে পারে। মাইক্রোফোনে প্রবলেম হতে পারে।
Okay. So,
Yeah, a cable. Might
sir
help.
can join through the phone, I guess. Can you hear us, sir?
Hi, hi. কি হলো এটা? সে ঠিক করতে পারলো না?
Sir, if you kindly try to join through your phone, I will send you the link right now.
লগ আউট করে আবার জয়েন করলে রিজলভ হতে পারে।
Sir, can you try to re-log in if it is possible, if the technical person is there?
When it is being technically arranged, maybe you can continue. Aman?
Sir, okay. Sir, now we were actually waiting to listen to our discussion, but possibly we can open the floor now for interactive discussion, and when the technical problem will be resolved, we can go get back to our discussion, if it's okay. The floor is now open. So from the participants who are on Zoom and also who are physically present here, if anyone has any questions to ask to our keynote speaker, it will be open. So our two volunteers are here with handheld mic, and in the Zoom setup, if anyone wants to ask any question, please technically raise the hand and we will allow the question.
Please have your hand raise that option.
If anyone raises their hand, to give them the phone, microphone. And also in Zoom, I will request the technical people to look at the Zoom if anyone raised their hands.
This is Walid Rahman.
Okay, Walid Rahman. Sir, sir, please go ahead, sir.
Can I?
Yes, sir, please, you can go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I express my gratitude to one of my gurus, Mr. Muhith, and all that he said are known to us about himself. And perhaps he has not said many more about himself, which we know. Some of the books that he has written, some of the books he has published are for us and for succeeding generations to see and read. Thank you, sir. Basically, I'll just make a few points from what you have said. Bangabandhu was a leader of the world, and rightly so. And when I had the privilege of meeting Nelson Mandela in South Africa, sent by the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. He, among other things, said, which I think I must mention here, in relation to what you have said, sir. After my meeting with him was over, so I was coming out. Then he stopped me. He said, "Look, Ambassador, tell me one thing. Why did you kill Sheikh Mujib? He was a greater leader than me." Of course, sir, and I also addressed my foreign minister, that I really didn't have an answer. I kept quiet. And I could see, this is the most important part, I could see the old man, his eyes got a bit leaden, and he didn't cry, but then I could see that he was emotionally very disturbed. And it was then that I couldn't answer. I stepped down the stairs and then got into our ambassador's car and went to the Bangladesh residence. Now, this is one point that I thought that I'll refer directly to what you said. If we need an answer, this is the answer. Now, why his name has not been given the kind of importance that he deserved is largely because of the White House. The White House had two gentlemen. They hated him. They didn't like him. For Kissinger, I was reading one of his books, one of the many books that he had written. He believed that all his plans for this part of the world, including China and Pakistan, was challenged by one person, and that is Sheikh Mujib. So Nick Kissinger, as you know him, sir, Mr. Muhith, you know him much better than I do. I have met him several times in meetings and conferences, but I never asked him about it because I knew his character. And he said he had one philosophy that nobody could challenge him. So it is Sheikh Mujib who not only challenged him, he destroyed his formula of not having Bangladesh. This is why he never liked him. And then later on, when he met Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in Paris, he said things which are really irrelevant.
Sir, a little bit.
So yeah, I'll shorten it, yes. One more thing I would like to say that
our discussant is ready. That's why, sir, if you can kindly.
I'll make it in 1 minute. I'll make it in 1 minute.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Sir.
So, Declaration of Independence. If we see the Declaration of Independence of Bangladesh by Bangabandhu exactly at midnight, and there was another declaration that is the tries to destiny. At the stroke of midnight, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. Do I see some similarity? I do, sir. And evaluating Bangabandhu is perhaps we are too near history. Another 50 years, 100 years, as the German historian Leopold Ranke said, that to evaluate judge a situation in history, you have to wait for at least 100 years. So you have not come yet, crossed yet 100 years. So Bangabandhu, Sheikh Mujib will be evaluated as a world leader, as you have said rightly, sir. And this is the day that perhaps we will not be around to see, but then he will be a world recognized as a world leader. because he not only fought for us, but he fought for the entire population of Africa. For when he made that famous speech in the event, he talked half of the speech was on Africa, was on colonization. And that is Sheikh Mujib and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Excellencies, distinguished guests, because of some technical glitch, we will not be able to hear the discussion directly, but he will be speaking on the phone, which I will be putting on the microphone, and you'll be listening to him and saying. Sir, you may go ahead. Thanks.
Sincere apologies to everybody in the room and elsewhere. But first, let me start by thanking the Foreign Minister for giving this opportunity to partake in the inaugural lecture. Before I make any comment, let me also pay my tribute to Mr. Muhith, our inaugural speaker. I do not believe there could have been any better choice as the first speaker in this series. Mr. Muhith epitomizes all that is best. With 6 decades or more of public service, he has an exceptional high standard, and his work has extended in many areas. For me personally, it has been a great good fortune that I have been able to sit at his feet and look to him as my mentor. So in fact, thank you. The speech that Mr. Muhith made this morning, there is very little one could add to that. As I was listening to the speech, I was thinking of an artist who was asked to add color to the rainbow or enhance the beauty of lilies. That is an impossible task. But so he has, in fact, given us much to think about. We will not repeat what he has said. The time is short, and there are many of you waiting to speak. I will make a handful of comments. That is that there is one consistent thread that goes through Bangabandhu's life, and that is, if you look back, he has always been on the right side of history. He has never compromised. He has never veered. He has never always stood up and struggled for injustice. He never gave up on the struggle for the rights of the downtrodden, the impoverished, and supporters of all. He never compromised with values. All those, including many Bengalis, who betrayed the cause of God. So this anthem
স্যার টেলিফোন লাইনটা কেটে গিয়েছে স্যার, আমি আবার করছি স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ থ্যাংক ইউ
more remarkable, and people often forget, is that Bangabandhu's tenure as the head of the government, head of the state, was exceptionally short. Just Bhai said, during this short period, he reconstructed the war-torn Bangladesh, set up a government, established a state, gave us a constitution, and created the framework for modern Bangladesh. And it is the same framework, unfortunately, with some long years, 2 decades of being pushed on the other side, we are still following. And it is the perception that and policy that Bangabandhu laid down that has made Bangladesh what it is, and we are on our way. There's another thing I need to emphasize of Bangabandhu as a person. His ancestors were Sufis. Early Sufis came to Bangladesh and who created what we now call synthetic Bengali Islam, which is marked by tolerance, a pursuit of social justice, and spirituality. Bangabandhu was deep in his heart, was a very spiritual person. He was not so much to organized religion. Of course, he practiced Islam in his private life. The strength of Bangabandhu was his spiritualism, which is what gave him the spirit of tolerance, which characterizes Bangladesh society. It is that inspired him to push Bangladesh towards secularism, to commit us to a life of justice. There would be a lot more to say, and speaking to the telephone is not the easiest way of communicating. But there is one area which I must say that in foreign policy, and which I'm sure the foreign minister will vouch, the fundamental policies that he laid down still continue to govern us. And this is what Momen also says in his lecture. And even more importantly, the foundation he laid for Indo-Bangladesh special relationship still continues and continues to benefit Bangladesh, mutually benefit Bangladesh. This is a dimension we need. No one lecture, no one book, no one volume will do justice to Bangabandhu. We have so much to learn, write, research, and this is the time to take a fresh look at what has happened. Following the death of assassination of Bangabandhu, there was a lot of disinformation. A large number of people, so-called scholars, who were hired to distort the history, spread rumors about Bangabandhu, which mercifully, fortunately, the history has disproved, and we are gradually different. In conclusion, I just want to say one thing with permission of Muhith. An important area I thought you might have spoken more, what I consider to be his crowning achievement. That is Baksha, the creation of Bangladesh Economic Awami League. A new framework of governance based on cooperative, centered on cooperative, and which far from being a one-party government, actually designed to include those political parties and leaders who had been excluded through general elections. Had Bangabandhu lived little longer and had managed to establish his vision of government based on Pakistan, you, we would have reached our goal long before. I hope we will reach this function. I hope we will stop being apologetic about it. There is, the misinformation is spread by its detractors, not based on any facts or nothing. Only, and I can still think that despite the passage of time, it was one party system was a red herring. We did not focus on that. We need to focus on what the government based on cooperative and the government from the grassroots would have achieved. Maybe that is a matter for another discussion. With those words, I apologize for the technical difficulties and thank the Foreign Minister for giving me this chance. And most of all, thank Muhith for your inspiration and your numerous candidates to me. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Babur.
Very much, sir. We thank you actually profusely after getting this technical glitch, but we have managed to listen to you. And I again go back to the open floor. If anyone has any comments to make. Okay, sir. Can you please take the handle for phone to sir in front? Yes. Yes, sir. Right. You can speak in settings, no problem.
Let's begin with thank you, Minister, for the class. We would like to be present here as a distinguished speaker for great leader in the country. In fact, I should not have had the audacity to speak after Mr. Muhith, who has forgotten our statement of what he did, and then Mr. Babur is weak. And reminded of anything what we have said, that the quick can be also look at the king. So I have the capacity to talk on the these are the for that the council where they found the election. So Mr. Muhith's short, I should say short presentation presented the great notion of Bangabandhu where he was to the council in a nutshell, and he sound everything. And he has discussed almost everything about him and all that he did for the people and this country. But one thing he might as well have mentioned, the Bangabandhu, while working for the Muslim League, working against the riots in Kolkata, and then coming to see it, which Mr. Muhith, my previous boss, mentioned in his essay, and fighting for the genocide or the war. It is a wonderful thing. It is rather astonishing for ordinary people like us to think that the person who was a devoted Muslim leader, in those days it was natural for rising Muslim middle class to be a Muslim leader, catching Pakistan for many social reasons, we all know that. The devoted fighter for Pakistan, that Bangabandhu was in his good days and after that also. While the board coming and saying they fought seriously for the retention of coming to Syrian Bangladesh, who is a veteran Muslim. This particular leader, in the previous time, again thought that the fate of the Bengalis, whom he loved always with his whole heart, he immediately thought, and only he could think, that the fate of the Bengalis is doomed in Pakistan that we achieved after his leadership and others' leadership. So he turned himself into a Bengali nationalist and passed his entire life. And he fought against Pakistan literally, metaphorically, and through his unique leadership. This is one great aspect which should be remembered, that a Muslim leader turning into later an Hon'ble leader, the founder and the father of this nation. This great aspect should have been mentioned. I know there are many other speakers I have not mentioned. I must end with thanking Dr. Babur for his nice appreciation. his next presentation. I was aware of his very strong.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We will request the intervenants to keep it short and crispy, and then we can get back to the keynote speaker to make his comments. If anyone is there from the Zoom, we can. Okay, Sir Kamal Chaudhary, sir. Sir, if you can go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much for giving me flow. This Bangabandhu lecture series is an excellent initiative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And for this, I would like to convey my thanks to Honorable Minister, State Minister, and concerned officials on behalf of the Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Birth Centenary Celebration National Implementation Committee. Since I am working as the chief coordinator of that committee, so I think if your invitation to me, this is also, you see, very commendable, and thank you very much for inviting me in this very excellent session. And I would also like to convey my thanks to my two very respected sirs, Abul Abdul Muhith sir and Professor Dr. Gahor Rizvi. Abdul Muhith sir, he has given an excellent deliberation on Bangabandhu's life and achievement, and based on historical perspective. And then we have listened from Professor Gahor Rizvi. Both of their observations and insights, I believe that will benefit us immensely, obviously, to understand Bangabandhu in a new dimension. Another one thing I don't have any question, but I want to put here, just share with you, that the uniqueness of Bangabandhu in this subcontinent is that he has created a nation state, Bangladesh, based on linguistic nationalism and secular nation state. And he's the first person of the Bengalis who has created this type of a nation state for their own. Because if we in fact consider our Bengali nationalism or the Bengalis from the perspective of ethno-linguistic, I mean the perspective, then we see that the Bengalis are the third largest ethnic groups in the world, after Han Chinese and then after the Arabs. Because the language has two basic, in fact, role. One is language is the medium of culture, and also language is a medium of communication. If we consider me as medium of communication, our language is the 7th largest language in the world. But if we consider it from the perspective of culture and ethno-linguistic perspective, then Bengalis are the 3rd largest ethnic group in the world. But Bengalis didn't have any country. So Bangabandhu was the first person who has created this country for the Bengalis. So this is the unique role of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. That's why Bangabandhu is our friend of Bengal, and also is the poet of politics throughout the world. So this type of lecture series, I think this is a very important in the sense that we are celebrating now Bangabandhu's birth centenary, and this birth centenary, if we get some insights from abroad and also from the learned persons of our country, so that will give new insights to understand Bangabandhu, our father, and also our new generation will get inspiration from this type of lectures. So I believe that this type of lectures will be documented, and that will also add new dimension in our celebration of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's birth centenary. Once again, I would like to convey my thanks to Honorable Abul Abdul Muhith sir for very insightful deliberation, and also Dr. Gahor Rizvi sir. Although we have suffered a little because of the audible, the technical problem, sir, still thank you very much for your excellent deliberation. Once again, thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, Bangladesh Chirojibi ho.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful comments. I think that we are running a little bit over time. So if there is no other request for floor from the audience or Zoom, I would like to get back to our keynote speaker or the discussant if they want to make any further comments. Moin sir, if you want to make any comments on the reactions that we heard so far.
I have just one comment. From the discussion that I heard here, I find that I have made one omission in my presentation, and that omission I haven't talked about Bakshal. I think I shall correct it in due course in my final version that I produce from my book. You see, yes, one should give some time to this issue. Why was Bangabandhu forced to declare Bakshal? I had, in fact, a discussion with him on this subject, this precise subject, and in the discussion, I think I learned something, and I also earned his annoyance for a little while, because I thought that he was really very annoyed with me. But then I checked up the next day and found that he has forgotten all about it. Thank you. That's the only point I have to make. I'll put it in my final version that I give for the publication.
Thank you very much, sir. I think with this comment, we have reached almost at the end of our today's event, the lecture series, the first lecture of the lecture series. This would be my honor to now to request the Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs to give the vote of thanks. And with that vote of thanks, we will conclude our session today. Thank you very much. Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs. Has he been disconnected somehow or? Seems that Zoom has another problem today. Probably has lost his connection and probably he'll be getting connected soon. Just give us a minute.
Sorry.
Sir. Sir. Sir, পাঠাচ্ছি স্যার আমি অথবা স্যার আপনি এটাকে দিব কানেকশন আমি পাঠাচ্ছি এবার ওকে ওকে স্যার ওকে স্যার It appears the sir got disconnected, but we are going to send the link immediately and he will be connected within few seconds.
Am I back, Aman? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, it's loud and clear. We can hear you, sir.
I'm extremely sorry. Is this my turn now?
Yes,
I presume.
a vote of thanks delivered by Honorable Minister, and with that, we will conclude our today's session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm extremely sorry once again. My special gratitude to Honorable Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Momen, especially being right in the middle of, if I may, sir, share your COVID infection that you have kindly consented, and you have masterminded this event, and you have made your inaugural remarks. I wish you and Foreign Secretary well, and at the same time, I seek your prayer and blessing so that we all can recover fast. It was truly, it's very difficult to express myself here. To listen to someone who has worked for Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, from very early days in his professional career. I'm referring to respected Abul Maal Abdul Muhith sir. We know it's not easy to talk about Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in such a short span of time. And very recently, I had the good fortune to invite you and your other junior colleague, our immediate past Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mahmoud Ali sir, in an event. And today is the first of such many events and lecture series that Minister of Foreign Affairs will be hosting. And I suggest that the future ones, this one in particular was a very general one, but we pick up themes of future lectures because Bangabandhu's leadership cannot possibly be discussed in one program. He was supported very well by his family. We can talk about that. He had a very special relationship with the student leaders. We can talk about that separately. His upbringing, his natural leadership abilities from a very young age, we can talk about that separately. A towering figure who was around only for about 55 years before he was brutally assassinated along with his family members in the darkest hours of 15th August 1975. He spent 13 plus years in prison, and the foundation of Bangladesh that he has laid in 3.5 years only out of his 55 years is truly fascinating. And if you actually take out, many of us sitting around here today, even, I am 50 today, or 50 plus couple of months. Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman laid the war of liberation at the age of 51 or 52. So, whatever we see, whatever he has given us, all the foundation that he went on to lay was done in only 20 years. We know that because of his illness, he finished his schooling years very late compared to his other peers. So, lot more to talk about. I'm grateful to all the high commissioners and ambassadors from all the friendly countries ambassadors and high commissioners and other individuals, former diplomats who spoke rather briefly. I hope that we'll have opportunity to listen to you at a length in coming days. On this very day, 1st of December, as we stepped into the month of victory, I express my gratitude and congratulate to all of our colleagues at Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our predecessors who actually fought for the very independence of the nation under the leadership of Honorable Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And we are truly grateful to his daughter, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who again fought for at least 21 years after 1975 to put Bangladesh Awami League at a position from where we could start rebuilding and start finishing off the work that was unfinished on 15th August 1975. We are truly grateful for her leadership that has put Bangladesh back on track, and we can talk a lot more about it in coming days. I express my gratitude and gratefulness to the countries who has so far helped us to bring back the self-confessed killer of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. The countries Thailand, United States of America, and India. And I would urge other countries and their representatives who are listening today to help us, first of all, to locate the killers of father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the self-confessed killers who are, if I may express this, who are in hiding but at large in United States and in Canada, to help them to bring back to Bangladesh. I think that will truly be a just decision to hand them over back to us. I don't want to, I know that we have overshoot the time that we were given, but once again, I express my gratitude to my colleagues, the Director General Aman for hosting today's program, and individuals like Dr. Gauhur Rizvi, Abul Maal Abdul Muhith. And when for the last 1 year or so from the National Committee for the celebration of this centenary of father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, whenever we sat together to pick up names who could possibly contribute and share their knowledge and proximity from which they have seen father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, worked for him, we were not very lucky because unfortunately, as time elapsed, many of them actually left us. We have very few individuals around, nationally and internationally, and respected Abul Maal Abdul Muhith is one of them. So I wish him specially a very good health, sir. We would be needing you to inspire our young diplomats, not only just young diplomats. The citizen of this country needs to know, while you were talking, we are hosting this program on Facebook Live, and I have seen comments from very young, lot younger than me even, individuals who are listening to you and praying for your good health and appreciating your courage and sharing your thoughts and memories as well. So I'll finish here saying goodbye to all of you for the time being. It was not only an opportunity to know about Bangabandhu more, more we host, listen and speak, we get to know and share more. But this is also gave us an opportunity to see each other after a while during this difficult time of COVID-19. We all need to be safe and healthy. So may Allah bless us all. We'll see you inshallah very shortly. Thank you. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all. With these words, we conclude our session today. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir.